Welcome aboard to podcast 44 in the series of the Voyage to Back Yonder. Before we get started on this week's podcast, I wanted to make a quick announcement that I'm going to be removing my podcasts from iTunes and my podcast provider once I finish up the series around podcast 52. All my podcasts will continue to be available on my YouTube channel and also on my website at brodazen.com. And of course, I'll link all that in the description of this podcast. Why am I doing this, you may ask? Well, I have some exciting plans in mind for the future regarding videos, and I don't get a whole lot of traffic on the podcast sites and iTunes. So I'm going to focus more of my energy on YouTube and my website. So easy breezy. Okay, so now that is out of the way, let's get back into the heart of our voyage to Back Yonder. One of the things that seems to stand out to most of us, and the thing that most of us seem to be most vocal about as we live our lives, is when we hit choppy waters on our voyage and we become seasick on the ocean of love. As we stand at the rail of our ship, taking in the fresh air to try to keep from losing our lunch, we can contemplate about the root of the choppy waters causing us to feel sick in our stomach. I've found that for my life, every moment my mind is validating my worth. The question that's being asked behind the scenes every second seems to be, do you believe you're loved? Now that can spawn a lot of thinking and review of my life. So what gets me to answers more quickly is to really ask a second question, which is really the real question. Do you believe you are unconditionally loved? Well, for me, I've found that any love that happens outside of my inner being in the outer world is conditional. The outer world is full of a theater of characters, and they're all influenced by each person's fear ego. It's an amusement park full of fear rides. The game of the outer world is all about determining if we're worthy of someone else's love. And that love seems to be based on a list of conditional love laws. We're all taught that there are certain things that we're supposed to do or achieve in order to be lovable. And we apply that list of expectations to ourselves. And then, of course, we believe that everyone else is also supposed to adhere to our list. We don't realize that everyone has their own unique list that usually differs from ours in many ways. So people are failing to obey 100% of our conditional love laws. And most likely, we're failing to obey 100% of everyone else's list of conditional love laws. So all that results in a lot of disappointment. When we're looking outward for our love, and we're asking ourselves, do I believe I am unconditionally loved? The answer will most likely come back, no, I don't believe I'm unconditionally loved. And we answer this way because that is what we have experienced, the fluctuating opinions of others. Now we can react and try even harder to be loved and try to meet everyone else's conditional love laws. But because those laws differ by person, that takes time to figure out what those love laws are for maybe that one individual. And we can't often communicate all the love laws we have, even if someone asked us, because we think it's common sense that everyone should just know all the same things. And even if we were able to comprehend and know what one person's conditional love laws are, everyone's is different. So if we want to be loved by more than one person, then we would have to spend even more energy to find out another person's laws. And even then, we might discover that some of person A's love laws contradict some of person B's love laws. Crud. Now I have to be two different people to them. And what would I do if ever we three are in the same room together? So chances are we're wanting to be loved and accepted by the world, or at the very least, our family, friends, and lovers. That's going to be exhausting, trying to be so many people to so many people. It's really no wonder we're a country on drugs trying to fight depression and anxiety, and so many people are sick because their bodies are in a state of perpetual fear of being rejected. But it's an awesome situation, because when we're faced with so much disappointment from the outer world, we'll eventually turn inward to find our love. Now, of course, when we turn inward into ourselves to find love, one of the biggest sources of our inner love comes from the Big Kahuna. You know, when we're looking into our heart and questioning our lovability, the big question that we come to as a fork in the road is if we believe that the creator of all things is unconditionally loving or conditionally loving. And answer what first comes to your mind. Then look deeper into your heart, because the answer to that question can show you what your life beliefs are based on. And that can be a life changer. It's funny. I love the messages we can receive from the other side, from back home, because as I was typing out my thoughts for this podcast, a post on my Facebook page appeared with an affirmation for that day. And it was, I am worthy of God's love. I have found that as I journey into my heart, I find a powerful, unconditional love living there. You know, the Big Kahuna greeting me with strong embrace, free of any judgment. I find a large group of unconditionally loving beings greeting me with a group hug. And in the midst of all that unconditional love, I suddenly find myself loving me unconditionally too. Sit in that for a moment. Picture that in your mind. Feel that. It brings tears of joy to my eyes. And there's finally peace in my mind and in my body. How brave I am to write that down. I am unconditionally loved. You know, what audacity I have to say it out loud. I am unconditionally loved. You know, my life changed when I made that the first thing I started my morning prayer, mantra, meditation with. I am unconditionally loved clears the clutter of conditional love laws out of my head. It prioritizes where I'm investing my energy for the day. Because once I discover that I'm unconditionally loved and there's nothing I can do to gain more or lose it, the drive to be someone else or achieve more dissipates. Then, with a heart overflowing with unconditional love for myself, I decide how I want to share that unconditional love with the world in my own unique way. And I do it not for more likes or followers or blah, blah, blah. I do it because that makes my soul happy to share the unconditional love that is flowing out of it. The sea of love becomes still. My seasickness leaves me. I breathe in the fresh air deep into my lungs, and suddenly a breeze picks up and fills my sails. I begin moving in a direction of sharing that unconditional love. Until next episode, if you find yourself feeling seasick today, try to remember that when we believe that these other outward characters should love us, that's when the choppy waters come. Other people's opinions of us vary by the second. How other people feel about us is influenced by how they are physically feeling, how they are seeing the world, how they are feeling about themselves. The rocking back and forth of our ship, swaying toward being lovable and away from being lovable. That is what makes us love Seasick. We have little control over what people will think of us because they are seeing life through their own eyes from the inside out, and we are on the outside. So we can gain back control over our choppy waters by rumbling up the unconditional love deep inside, letting it fill us up and letting it flow out to all our fellow humans in the world. It seems we can really only change our own lives. But maybe with enough unconditional love pouring out into the world, it can help others remember that unconditional love lives deep within their heart. Enjoy your voyage, Captain. I love you.